Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're continuing our early game playbook guide series with Lü Bu, the warrior without equal. And as you can see here, Lü Bu is only playable in the 194 start, so this means you must have the World Betrayed DLC to play this faction. And he is one of the two featured factions in this DLC, and we're on a journey from DLC to DLC covering the unique factions that are added in during those DLCs, as we went to the 182 start previously and covered all three Zhang brothers, Liu Hong, Liu Chong, and Lu Zhi, which are basically the faction that were added in alongside the DLC package. And after we did that, we didn't continue any of the other 182 factions, as we have already covered those factions in 190, so most of the faction background will be the same. We will just have a different start date and different objectives. So we're going to save those for later guides. We'll move on to the next DLC, which is this one, A World Betrayed, and we'll cover Lü Bu and Sun Ce this week and next, before moving on to A Fates Divided. And for that one, we'll be covering Liu Zhang's faction, because he's the only new faction that was added in for that DLC. And then once we get all those done, we'll at least have a reference for every single playable Han factions in the game. And then we can move on to the Nanman factions. We'll pick the 190 date for those, as that seems to be the default start date for the base game, in case you don't own any other DLCs. And then we'll cover the 8 princes as well, before moving back to repeat factions. So with all that said, let's first take a look at Lü Bu. The playstyle here is one-man army. And that's a really good description of this campaign, because the two campaigns that were featured in A World Betrayed, Lü Bu and Sun Ce, are very specialized. You get very exact missions and objectives for your campaign, and it plays much more like an RPG adventure game than an open world strategy game. And in Lü Bu's case, we're playing the greatest warrior during the Three Kingdoms period, and he has a bunch of missions focused on himself, becoming stronger and proving his strength. So the starting situation of all this is normal, and that is not reflected about your start really. You are under attack at the start of the campaign, and you must fight your way out. The reason why it's normal is because you're aided by possessing the strongest general in the game that can only get stronger as he picks off more and more generals on his list. And we'll describe all those mechanics once we get into game. So taking a look at the faction, there are personal victories and momentum, two different unique resources to balance out. Personal victories are gained by defeating other generals in battle with Lü Bu, and momentum is gained by winning and defeating other generals. They are very similar in terms of what they provide, but their uses are very different. And we'll dive deeper into this once we see them in game when we jump out of this menu. Aside from those bonuses and faction unique mechanics, we have two new unique units, the Flying Riders, available to all generals at rank 6, and the Camp Crushers, available for all generals at rank 3. My best descriptions of these are that the Flying Riders are very similar to another unique unit that you actually have, the Xiliang Cavalry, which will stay with you, as you will have Dong Zhuo's unique unit as well, as you did sort of inherit his faction, which is not listed here, but you do have them. For the Flying Riders, they have sort of a different stat buildup. They're a little bit pricey in the beginning, and the fact they require rank 6 characters make them kind of a late game unit that could spice things up. In my opinion, shot cavalries just need good charge bonus to be effective. Therefore, a lot of the other stats you're paying for here, good armor, good charge, are not going to be really that beneficial. You're going to find that even militia lance cavalry can do a lot for you when used properly. So that's my general opinion about shot cavalries, regardless of what faction it is. But Flying Riders are pretty good because they don't use shields, they don't add any excess stat that's kind of not useful for shot cavalry, and they just focus on having good charge, which is excellent. The Camp Crushers are a better variant of the 斩马剑 units that were introduced in this DLC as well for all factions. They use a giant two-handed sword, have a small bonus against cavalry, and they have good armor, and their sword gives them splash attack damage. Their weakness is their defensive stats. They're pretty fragile, but they do good damage. So if you could find them in a close quarter combat in siege battles, or if you need them on the field to protect your flanks once you can give them charge negate from a sentinel general, they can be fairly effective against cavalry. But before that, if you're going to use them just as any regular infantry, they don't have shields and they don't have high armor. They have improved armor over 斩马剑, which has really poor armor, but still, for their price, their uses are more specialized in my opinion. And then we also have Coheres, which is the same mechanic that we had with Dong Zhuo's faction, except for instead of intimidation, you're using momentum. So the momentum resource can be used to swing diplomatic deals. Quite powerful. You still have Raise, which is the mechanic that Dong Zhuo had. After you occupy a settlement, you can raise it to level 0, get rid of it entirely, and you gain a burst of momentum for this. Lastly, you have the Mercenary Treaty option. So this is usually reserved for bandit factions, but as a sort of a hitman faction, you have this as well, and you should definitely put this to use to get paid to fight in wars. Aside from all this, we have a ton of noteworthy characters, which I think is better served to talk about them once we jump in the game and we can see them in better detail. As our leader, Lü Bu has Disloyal, which actually does not affect him now because he is the faction leader. Feared, Formidable, a bunch of instinct stats overall. He's a Vanguard, and his faction-wide bonus from Warrior Without Equal background is minus 15% recruitment for shock cavalry cost, and plus 15% melee damage for all shock cavalry. These are okay bonuses. Melee damage for shock cavalry is actually a bit weak because this is base damage. And since most shock cavalry uses polearm spears, most of their damage is actually on armor piercing. So this percentage boost on low number is not going to amount to much. Unless it becomes a misprint. There are a few abilities in the game. I don't think Lü Bu has it, but I think Ma Chao actually has a misprint where it says percentage, but it adds 15 flat, which is actually really good because the low numbers, you're actually adding tremendous amount of percentage damage. We'll double check in game to see if he has the correct output. And then plus 3 morale in enemy territory. That's just always helpful. So with all that said, we need to jump in there. There's a lot of stuff to cover in this campaign. We are probably not going to play any of the turns because there's so much information to describe the faction. So a lot of this will be theory crafting. If you're curious about how it plays out in reality, we have a very good campaign on the channel where we went through and checked off all the list. And it was quite fun. We might return to it given there's newly added mechanics since that patch. But first, we gotta discuss things. So we'll be showcasing this on Legendary 40 minutes. Let's hop into game.
主公虽然诛杀了董贼，但世事难料，数年之内恐怕还要经历磨难。
此等叛徒竟然侮辱于我，他们早晚会知道我不会止步于此，天下人都将看到我所建立的大业。
主公虽已起兵与曹操为敌，但曹贼也已做好了准备，打算与主公决一死战。
曹操就像袁绍和其他诸侯一样，不堪一击，他缺少问鼎天下的力量。
话虽如此，其兵力却仍不容小觑。主公最好先寻一处易守难攻之地，据而守之，方为上策。然而陈郡遭围过久，对我方亦为不利，疫病蔓延，粮草告罄。如此下去，守军恐难以为继。
我等当如何处置？杀出城与敌军决一死战？
或许可行。他的侧翼部队已经逼近，如果主公能将其击败，就可获得喘息之机，从而向北撤退，重整军事。
我会让卑鄙曹贼好好看看我的本事。吾乃当世的无双战神，就算是天子， 也绝对不能令我屈从。
Alrighty, so that's our flyby introduction. We are the rebel without a cause. You're undoubtedly the greatest warrior in all of China, Lü Bu. None can question this. However, even you will occasionally suffer from temporary setbacks. The rebels who invited you to lead them against Cao Cao have been found wanting, and were unable to provide your armies with supplies needed to capitalize on your successes. Perhaps it is wisest to let Cao Cao reclaim the city of Chen as you retreat north to replenish. Then you can continue persecuting your vengeance and ensuring your legacy. Escape from Chen, replenish your armies, then crush Cao Cao. And they want us to fight Xiahou Dun's army to gain this bonus called Rebel Leader. Minus 50% character salary faction-wide and minus 20% retinue upkeep faction-wide. These are very, very useful early game bonuses. As you can see, our economy starts out in the red, mainly because we have a sizable army here with some heavy Xiliang cavalry, which costs 440 per unit, very expensive. And we also have a big roster of generals that includes unique generals like Chen Gong, Zhang Liao, Diao Chan, Gauchon. And we will eventually also have our daughter join us once she comes of age. She's 14, so only 2 years away, so within the first 10 turns she will become available. She has a very useful background bonus of 15% replenishment, making her very, very useful in the army. If you are using any mods, usually we don't talk about mods at all, but I know that MTU is very popular. She will be unique in that situation, and they would have like a shared ability with Lü Bu, making her just very essential whether you're playing a mod campaign or not, in that she will grant that 15% replenishment to the army. That is extremely useful in early battles. And since she's a member of the family, you will gain bonuses by having her in the army with the father. Any one of them die, the other will heal and gain massive bonuses for the death of a family. And the death is not permanent because they will have resiliency to back them up. Now, the first thing we will do, and why we're in the family talking about daughter, is she is heir. And she's not going to be a great heir because her bonuses are more battle oriented and she's a sentinel. So what we should do is actually make our wife, Lady Yan, the heir right away, because she is a commander, and commander class have excellent abilities to boost the faction. Her background of a preacher is the least useful of all the commanders in the game. So there are some weaknesses here, but it's still better than what Lu Ji can provide just from her skill tree. So this is a free move, just make her heir. And if we take a look at her starting skill, you can get understanding after she ranks up, and then you're going to work your way from nobility to dignity to flexibility to get the 4 faction-wide boosting skills. +1 rank, extra assignment, +5 points of faction support, minus 25% redeployment cost, which is really where she can bring you some benefits. And immediately her authority stat is also going to be kicked in to help improve the satisfaction of your generals. You want to switch her weapon to authority-based stat. You can try to do the same with the armor, but she has the default one, which is pretty good. And if you have any good starting items, you can also start using her to equip those. Your starting item here, we had a very bad roll, but it's fine. You see that we have 3 items here that we're not going to use to try to minimize variance between what I showcase and what you can do in your campaign. But obviously, the better items you have, the better off you will be. Aside from those items, Lü Bu starts out with his full set, and we don't even get a stone pig, as you notice, right? Clay ox is from that. So we don't actually start out with any free items. There's a sword on Zhang Liao, and that's it, right? 2 items on Lü Bu, 1 item on Zhang Liao, and nothing else is here. And before we jump into this first fight in the first mission, which I believe is quite essential to do because you'll get that very nice bonus from doing that fight, we can look at our starting situation. We have a few pieces of land. We have Inchuan's farmland, Chen's city. It's a level 5 city. It's very tall build. And we're about to get attacked on both sides. Cao Cao has an army here. And Xun Yu, Cao Ren, Dian Wei leads another army in the north. with a siege weapon, which means they can start attacking it right away and take the city during the end turn if we don't do anything about it. Up here, next to the farmland, we have Xiaoyuan and Xiaodun in separate armies. And you might notice this symbol over their head, this greatest warrior target. This is our unique faction mechanic, not resource, but mechanic for Lü Bu's faction, called the Greatest Warriors. And the purpose of this is that Lü Bu wants to prove himself to be the greatest. Therefore, he has to fight and kill, or fight and win, against other warriors. You don't have to actually kill them. If they have resiliency, beating them once is good enough. Most likely you want to do this with duels, especially on romance mode, which we are on. Getting that duel off will give you the win. Otherwise, you have to chase them down and kill them, which is sometimes quite difficult. In records mode, having your general run into the other general is considered a duel. So you get that off much quicker, but we won't talk about that very much here. As you can see, we have a couple examples of what bonuses they bring. For example, if we defeat Dong Zhuo and Ding Yuan, we get a set bonus of father figures, both people who we have called our adopted father before. 5 points of satisfaction faction-wide. All these bonuses are faction-wide, unless it's unless it says like to Lü Bu. But in most cases, the set bonus itself is faction-wide. And on these individual generals, cousins in arms, you see another bonus that's given to the faction if you just beat that single general. So before you get the set, if I just beat Xiaodun, I still get something. But if I get both, I get both the bonus and the set bonus. And there are lists for all sorts of generals. The 3 kingdoms, and you can see you get massive amount of prestige for some of these, which will help you rank up your faction. You also gain diplomatic bonuses. You can spend forever just looking at these, but some of the more important ones are actually abilities that Lü Bu will gain on himself. So in this case, Lü Bu will learn Blazing Roar. So Zhang Fei's ability of minus 100 morale will be passed on to Lü Bu if you can beat him in battle. Very, very nice. If you see missing portrait, that means they're not in the game yet because they're underaged. So Sun Quan and Sun Ren are still kids at this point. When they come of age, their portrait will show up, and you can see their individual bonuses as well as the set bonus. Bandits, you can gain stock by picking up Yan Bai Hu. So this will give stock to Lü Bu. Poison Blade, the dagger throwing ability for Zheng Jiang, will also be picked up if you beat her. Stock is going to be quite useful because you pretty much can become invisible by running around if you need some time to hide. And then moving on, Dian Wei, Xu Chu also give bonuses, 5 elites of Wei, giving individual bonuses for each of them. Northern Defenders, now here, Han Sui is quite old. You don't want him to die of old age. There's a few people that you need to be careful of in case you're going for the completion here. Great strategists, the people missing are Zhuge Liang, Sima Yi, Peng Tong, which will spawn around 207 to 209, so you won't be getting these that early. Scholars, Liu Biao tends to live pretty long, so you don't have to worry too much about him, although he does start out quite old. Traders of Chang'an, Li Jue, Jia Xu, Guo Si. Tiger Generals, here Zhang Fei appears on 2 lists, and Guan Yu as well. Well, as long as you kill them once, they'll be crossed off on both lists. And the one in particular here is Zhao Yun. He is very important because he will give Lü Bu fatigue immunity. Warriors of the South, Zhou Tai has not spawned yet. He starts out factionless in 194. He will probably join Sun Ce's group, and then when he joins, he will show up here. Yuan Clan. Lastly, Yellow Turbans, which are in one faction under He Yi at the start of the game. They spawn outside of Liu Biao's territory. If you own the DLC, you can play as this faction, assuming you have the Yellow Turban DLC as well. you can take a look at their start position. It's very awkward because all three of the generals starts out in one army, and there's a chance that army gets defeated by Liu Biao on turn 1, and then they will never get summoned out again. There's that possibility. And then you can't pick up these bonuses, which is really, really bad if you don't rush this down early, because one of these bonuses, He Yi's recovery, is insanely strong. This is a passive heal that is constant. So essentially, you can make Lü Bu undying if you get this bonus. And if you get fatigue immunity on top of that, you become undying and fatigue immune, and your weapon gives you unbreakable, which essentially makes you unbeatable in battle. Because let's say you also pick up stock from the bandits, then you can hide and run around for a little bit, heal up, and then come back and fight again, rinse and repeat. You'll never get tired, you'll never break because of morale, you'll never miss health because you can just run around, stock, hide, heal, rinse and repeat, all you want. So those are options you have, and this is the greatest warrior mechanic for Lü Bu. And that's a big point of how you want to fight. And every general with this symbol on the map tells you that you get something for fighting that general. You might notice that we start out with Zhang Liao, who is part of the 5 elites of Wei. And he has this symbol too. But you can't fight a general who's in your own faction. So the way this can be done is through the Grand Independence mechanic from Administrator. So essentially what you have to do is set up Zhang Liao to become your vassal by making him administrator of a commandery that's not your capital, that you don't need. Grant him independence. Make sure he is in the army on the field when you're doing that. Therefore, he stays on the field the turn you do it, preferably right next to Lü Bu's army. You declare war on him right after granting him independence, and you beat him to gain his bonus. Then you have to try to butter him up and try to reclaim his faction with the Annex or Confederate so you can get him back, if you want him back. That's one way you can do it. Another way is a little bit harder and depends on the character. So for example, Zhang Liao wouldn't work because he's not willing to spy, but let's say if Tran is on your list, but she's not, but if she is and she's willing to spy, which symbolizes this symbol here, you could also send them to an enemy faction as a spy, see them get recruited onto the field, fight them then, and then just recall them afterward. That's another way you can do it. But of course, the Grand Independent, it's a much more controllable way of getting that done. So that's one way to do it for people who are in your own faction. This is going to become relevant as you pick up people, for example, traders of Chang'an. They will frequently leave their faction and maybe come into your pool. So you have a chance to recruit them. And if you do get that chance, I would do it because you can guarantee to fight them using the vassal method. And that's a controllable way of picking up these bonuses. Anyhow, back to the campaign. We talked about the greatest warrior. Now we have talked about 2 different resources. Let's start with personal victories. Personal victories is determined by how many other characters your generals have beaten in battle. You get a set amount of points for defeating an enemy general in battle. And depending on how many you have, you can see you get different bonuses and penalties. So for example, if we keep getting closer to the 10k max in terms of point value, we can get 200% post-battle loot income for Lü Bu's army, just his army. And this entire campaign is going to be about his army, if you haven't noticed, because all the bonuses goes to him and he's just going to be incredibly strong, one-man army, and you're pretty much just playing with him. You will also gain 250 points of prestige from this, combined with a bunch of prestige from your greatest warrior hit list. You're going to rank up your faction quite easily without any land. And we'll talk about land management because that's another point that you need to focus on when playing as Lü Bu as well. But on the, The penalty side, your characters will lose up to 50 points of satisfaction against you. That is very hard to swallow. And you'll get an increasing diplomatic penalty against you, where most factions will just hate you and see you as a strategic threat. Those are actually okay. On paper, the satisfaction penalty looks like a death sentence, but at the same time we have to talk about another resource, momentum. Whereas personal victory is just a growing tally of how many people you have beaten in this campaign, and this number will not go down. Momentum is a temporary calculation of how you're doing in terms of battle and how Lü Bu is doing in terms of defeating enemy characters. So you see here, you can gain momentum by winning battles and by defeating enemy characters. So in each battle, for each character you defeat, you'll gain 1 point of momentum. And this will decay quite fast. And this is only from 0 to 10 points. So before you reach, I think this is the third point, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or actually 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, yes. So starting at 4, you start gaining a bonus. 10 points of satisfaction, 5% campaign movement range, 15 points of satisfaction, 10%, all the way up to 70 points of satisfaction. Notice how if you are doing a lot of battling, then you can build up your momentum to offset your personal victories. So as long as you don't stop fighting, you can gain 70 points of satisfaction, 40% campaign movement range, 30% extra melee damage for melee infantry. So in this case, camp crushers will do really well. 25 points of morale, and 40% extra replenishment faction-wide. These are insane bonuses, but like I said, momentum will decay rapidly. And you can also use momentum for a variety of things in terms of campaign mechanic. Very, very hard to actually describe all of them. So we'll actually come to the game for a little help. Not overlay. I think I gotta pull up this. Right, faction breakdown. If you ever needed help, just pause and there's a faction breakdown, especially for these factions that are really, really rich in faction mechanic. You see that momentum is a pool resource that quickly decays, but you can use those points to perform the following action. You can do a court action in the court screen to a certain character to inspire loyalty and increase their satisfaction. You can inspire a commandery, which is a unique character assignment that will reduce local corruption. We'll talk about why you might want to do that. You can use this as a diplomatic option to swing negotiation, very similar to Dongzhuo. And you can also annex settlements without a fight. You can just use this as Liu-Bei's Unity, for example, where you just walk up to a settlement and click Conquer, spend your momentum, and pick up settlements. Obviously, I prefer actually just fighting it because you have a very insane general who can just climb over a wall and start killing everything in sight. And you can also do a bunch of resets there, but this has some use because you have to consider that we're on the patch 1.7.2 and now there is Imperial Favor. And this is going to hurt us if we're not careful because all our enemies here are the Han and our entire campaign is dictated on fighting, fighting, fighting. So the Emperor is going to frown upon us because we'll be fighting so much. And there are a few ways we can kind of work around this, and we'll talk about this once we finish up with this. And we talk about the stacking pooled resource, personal victories. Every character you defeat in battle, you get these points. They're permanent, they cannot be lost. They'll give us prestige post-battle, but there's also some penalties. It can be offset with the use of momentum. So you want to retain high momentum. All right, jumping back out. So that's all the resources we have. So you kind of understand how the faction plays now. And we can talk about exactly what you might want to consider doing early on. But before we do that, I think there's one last thing we do have to talk about. Chaotic Rule. This is a default campaign passive that's given to Lü Bu's faction that you cannot get rid of. So throughout your campaign, you have always one less administrator, plus 30% construction cost for everything, and plus 20% corruption everywhere. So as you can imagine, this just means Lü Bu is a very bad ruler. So how should you deal with this? Remember how we mentioned you can use administrators to grant independence for vassals? That is often the most optimum way to play Lü Bu. Keep very little land, maintain a vast vassal network, hand away all the land you conquer, form trade partners with them, let them deal with the construction costs, the corruption, and give you tribute in diplomacy. If you can pick up a character like Zheng Jiang, who can boost those tribute diplomatically with her bonus, that's an excellent way to play Lü Bu, to maintain a healthy economy through trade rather than through taxes. And you don't need that many characters in this playstyle because you're focused so heavily on your main army that it's not really worth your time to really field that many armies. I feel like 2 armies is probably enough for your entire campaign, since you won't be owning that much land in the first place. And you do have quite a few great characters if you want to play roleplay with just what you have. Chen Gong can support you with his Analyze Weakness to help you win duels. He also have Wisdom of the River at the same time. So he can reduce them by 100% in terms of melee evasion armor for 30 seconds, and also constantly reduce them by 20% when that's on cooldown. You also can shut down enemy abilities to really just help people win duels quite fast. Zhang Liao is probably one of your weaker generals in this case, and he also starts out with the senior officer. This is quite pricey. If you can get him to become administrator using the trick, you can get rid of this. And then we have Tran, who has a unique ability called Heavenly Grace, very similar to Wisdom of the River, except for it lasts much shorter. But the key here is it immobilizes. So there's a 15-second moment where the enemy will not move within 35 meters. You can just shut them down and deal a lot of damage. Only 1 use per battle, and on the far end of the skill tree, so this is not going to kick in for a long time. But Tran's a very good capture general. She can learn patience with her next level up, and she has perspective to give you a 10% extra capture rate. So she can be very useful in a second army for a capture, because in the first army, Lü Bu is going to be the best capture general just because he's such high levels. Level is another very big determining factor. So until Tran picks up more levels, Lü Bu is still going to have a higher rate, but she has a higher ceiling because of perspective plus patience. Then we have Gauchon, who I believe it's still bugged in my opinion, but very, very strong in the late game because he has ability called Scattering Blows. When you have this active, you have 30 seconds where your attack gains splash damage. And how the game calculates splash damage is it will see where you deal your damage and apply 100% extra range from where your damage occurs, right? So it basically splash around your point of attack. But this also applies to abilities such as Flame of the Phoenix, which is a smash attack on the ground in a circular area around you, dealing 3.8k damage to everything within that circle. But if you give it 100% extra splash at the edge of the circle, you actually double the radius of the circle. And Gauchon ends up being a nuclear blast in the middle of the enemy army. Because if you activate this and then use this, the damage is ridiculous and the range of the circle, tremendous. Doubling the radius, 4 times the area, absolutely wipe out enemy formations. So that's something you should definitely consider, cultivating Gauchon to get these skills. Just pick up Passion, grab that one, go, go, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. You will have to be level 8, so it will take you some time. But this is a late game powerhouse. Like, imagine what Flame of the Phoenix can do, and then double the radius. And the cooldown is 60 on this, 30 on that. So every minute you can do this once. Quite impressive. This one might be 90 seconds because the duration has to end before the cooldown starts. So every 90 seconds you can do this once. And in between you can do another couple Flame of the Phoenix. Wouldn't interfere with you at all. So these are great generals to start out with, and you obviously have your daughter, and you can obviously capture more generals as you play the campaign. So these are all cool things you can kind of look forward to when playing as Lü Bu. And Gauchon also has some interesting background bonus where he's unbreakable, and he has retinue upkeep discount for all types of retinue, and an additional 35% upkeep discount for his retinues of camp crushers and flying riders. So he will be quite good at using faction unique unit. In this case, flying riders will work well. Camp crushers was kind of the historical unit that Gauchon trained, so that's why he has that bonus as well. He starts out with 1, and we can see the stat here. This 53% armor is good. This is what really separates camp crushers from Zhan Ma Jian, who has about 30% armor. Big difference, because Zhan Ma Jian just doesn't survive, whereas these have much more durability to kind of use their splash attack to kind of make good on their value, their cost. It's not cheap. Anyhow, so we talked about the generals, we talked about mechanics, we talked about how you want to approach the vassal system. Now we can talk about some turn 1 stuff like we usually do. So you want to start out with some diplomacy. And we mentioned that we start out, with Cao Cao attacking us. He has no other enemies, so you can't get a mercenary contract, right? This is very useful. You get paid to fight. And you should always try to use this to your advantage. So whenever you're about to fight a faction, or if you're currently fighting a faction, take a look to see if they are in a war with anyone else. You can see it right up here. It was kind of blocking it. War, right? He's only with us. If you see that they're fighting with someone, let's say Yuan Shao is fighting with all these factions, you can go to those factions. So let's say Gong Sun Zan here, and offer him assistance to someone that he's fighting. And he will pay you for that for 20 turns. You'll enter into a semi-alliance for 20 turns. And if you do well in those battles, he will give you additional bonuses, whether it's money, items. It's definitely a good deal. Just be mindful that Lü Bu is the only non-bandit faction who can do this. So don't forget to use this throughout your campaigns. Okay. But in the first turn, we don't really have a good target because we're pretty busy with Cao Cao and he's only at war with us, so we can't really do too much here. The good news is you get to wipe out Cao Cao quite early, and you don't have to worry about his schemes at all after you wipe him out. But you might get schemed in the first couple turns, and there's nothing you can really do about that. What we are interested in doing is finding ourselves a trade agreement early on, and Liu Chong is a very likable partner because he also is not on our hit list. So we don't have to ever attack him, and we don't have to worry about that. So let's get a trade deal done first. And we do have 1 extra food, and I think we can just trade it to him to get some extra value back. If you want to look at items, this is a good turn to look at them. But we're not going to trade for anything here. We're just going to pick up as much money as we can. It's probably going to be 69 actually. 68, fine. Nope, 67. I don't think he will... I lied. He'll give us a little bit more. We can get a non-aggression pack with him that he... There we go. Like I said, we don't need to attack him. And his land is not extremely lucrative either. Alright, so the trade deal is done. And if you think you still need more money, you can always consider selling non-aggression packs and military access. You don't actually get much. Most people hate you. So let's focus on the battle. There's a multitude approach to this. And another mechanic that we didn't mention is that after any battle, you can forego the momentum bonus from the post-battle to refresh your movement. So Lü Bu's army, as long as he keep fighting, will never run out of movement. You can jump from one battle to another, to another, to another, to another, endlessly, which is crazy. And you can also recruit armies on turn 1 in the 194 start, which is crucial, because we're going to use that to beat this group up. First, we got to take care of this first battle because of the bonuses it will provide us. And we'll fight this one. Alright, and this will be fairly simple and straightforward. Your early reform tree, you do start out with 4 reforms because you are in 194, so you get 4 free ones, include a couple red ones that give you deployables. I don't think you need them for this battle, so we're just going to leave them alone. We are looking for the duel. I prefer not to use any of the units, and we're just going to look for him. He is always going to be willing to duel. I think for Lu Bu's campaign, you rarely have the problem of people refusing you, just because it's kind of your game mechanic, so most of the faction are kind of forced to duel you. When you are fighting, have Chen Gong hover around to apply this debuff on the enemy. Lu Bu doesn't really need it, and just make sure you don't get swarmed at the same time. But it's nice to have. Save your ability for the units. You don't need it to kill Xiahou Dun. He dies fairly fast. And you can see he has no evasion, so every hit's going to hit, and he's just not going to have a lot of health very soon. There we go. Super fast, and now we definitely will probably get up back on our horse, hopefully. If we don't, it'd be even better. Time to smash. I've been saving this one. And then let's get back on the horse, because charging with the horse, you can see their morale's all shattered. Chase. Chase and get experience. You want to hit that level 10 so you can pick up 2 more abilities, including your last active, which gives immobilize as well. And it doesn't take that long to kill everyone with Lu Bu. Oh, if you want Chen Gong to get some levels, you can have him chase the other one if you want. I think you can actually catch up to both. You do have the red hair. Alright, on to the next. As you can see, that doesn't take very long. Very, very, very simple battle. Alright, all done. Alrighty. So that's one of the Xiahou cousins down. You caught him, he's not willing to work for you. You can decide what you want to do. If you like his weapon, feel free to execute him. If you want to release him, that's totally fine too. Just fight him again in the future. He's not going to give you anything the second time, so you will get fondness for releasing him. After you wipe out Cao Cao, maybe he'll come join you. There's always the hope for that. I typically don't execute any unique characters, just on principle, so we'll release him here. And look here. We can reset the army's movement point to maximum. We will become tired and we won't gain any replenishment. This is very, very nice. You get the option to maintain momentum. You don't actually spend any momentum points. You gain 1 because you beat 1 general up, right? So we got Rebel Leader, which is the entire reason why you want to fight Xiahou Yuan for that first battle. Your economy becomes so much better at this point, and then once you get a couple more units to get growing might. No rush on this. It tells you when you cleared one of the greatest warriors. And then that brings another point. You might not want to keep all these generals with you. Right? There's a few events with Hao Meng and Hou Chen. Oh, Hao Meng in particular, there's a betrayal event. They pick up Cao Xing, another generic general champion. You could keep them for that, but you could also just fire all of them on turn 1, right? Especially these that don't like you very much. And historically, they betray you, so might want to dump them. You save a bit of salary cost on them. So that's something to consider. We won't be showcasing that here, but you can see, most importantly, we got our movement back. Now, you might note, we can't reach that army, but we don't need to reach that army. We just need to be in reinforcement range of that army. So we can just march back. We're already tired, right? Our units, after you maintain momentum, are going to be tired anyway, so you're not really losing anything here. You want to move your army to the reinforcement zone here. And this way you don't have to lose any city. You might lose this farm. I say might, because if you actually just recruit a general, you actually won't have to lose it, but that's another discussion. You can raise army and gain movement by using the proxy trick. So you want to recruit someone really cheap. And that's either strategist will do, depending on if you want Tran on the field or not. But I prefer to use her. I don't need her for this battle, but after getting rid of her units, we can recruit her out much easier in the future. So when you have your first general, I prefer to put them inside. Elite the retinue. Recruit the one you want in the fight. Gauchon is pricey. So if you want to save money to build something, maybe he's not the guy. Zhang Liao is the other choice with a little bit cheaper retinue. The retinue is going to come out, you know, not mustered, so it doesn't really matter that much. I prefer to use Zhang Liao here. He also has the weapon set up already with a bronze weapon. It's better than nothing. And then you just want to recall your first general, and he gets full movement. You can keep the retinue if you want. You can get rid of them if you want. In this case, I'm probably just going to get rid of them. And because we have full movement, we can just attack. And we don't want to do night battle. We just jump into the fight, have Lü Bu kill them all, pick up a couple more checks off the list. Dian Wei here is on your list. Alrighty, so we're standing pretty lonely here, but we're going to get help. For this battle, you can feel free to put down some towers, put down some spikes, put down some fire if you want. They do have a siege weapon, so they will actually fire them at them. It's fine. We're just waiting for Bossman to show up. There he is. And they will be charging at you. So what you want to do actually is kind of meet in the middle with your force so they can have time to group up. You're obviously going to be charging over there to pick up duels. As you can see, they can't really refuse you. Of the two, they're both pretty easy to kill. Dian Wei's a little bit harder because he has a 100% evasion bonus there, but his weapon's pretty poor. Tran doesn't stand a chance, and he has a bow, which is kind of annoying, so maybe we'll start with him. Make sure you're asking for all the duels as you get extra bonuses there. I forgot, I think they didn't get selected. Put them here, put them in the back. Alright, we're going to pick up Tran first. And most of the army should walk past you. We'll pick up Dian Wei afterward as our units group up. You do have to prepare for a fight here. It's not entirely free. So set up our front line, set up our ranged units right behind them. Cavalry off to the flank. Oh, that was fast. Now you're going to grab the other general. Let us mount so we can duel. You're not going to need any help. Alright, if they're going to pick you off before you are able to... So we're going to try to shoot them. Zhang Liao can come help. You have a lot of cavalry on yourself as well. These archers, you're probably going to disband them afterward anyway, so there's no issues with them dying here. They didn't even... Oh, they're trying to flank. I'm just going to lead them towards us. Gonna combine the cavalry forces with him. In the beginning, you're not going to make much progress against him because he's going to activate that, but very soon you're going to just chop him up and then take out the siege weapon afterward. Alright, let them form up. Let your cavalry... They're a bit slow. Heavy armor does that to cavalry. Alright, that's done. Even have fire arrows on these, which is great. Put them back over here. Since they're slow, we're not going to over-chase. We're going to bring them back. And Lü Bu has won again. Shocker, right? And we're going to wipe out the trebuchet right next to us as their army is ready past that point. Tower is pretty well placed. Never really got captured. Deal damage this whole time. Okay, so their cavalry is kind of being lured over towards these guys, and we're just going to overpower them. Why don't you stay with us? We'll pick off that one. Might get one more interested in us. Alright, he's back on his horse. We crush this. You can smash if you want. You don't have to. Against siege weapons doesn't do much. I say that, but still crushed one. Yeah, you have much better quality cavalry, so shouldn't come as a surprise as you crush them. Move on to the next one. Alright, he did his job. Time to crush the units. Like, none of this should scare Lu Bu. He should get out of there. We have a morale roar. He can go harass the range units, actually. Focus on that. Let him run away if he wants. Lu Bu's coming back over here as well. No one's really gonna go there, it seems. Alright, I'm gonna move the cavalry off. I don't want them to tangle up with a spear there. I'll grab that one. Wait till we become fatigue immune. Right now we're a little tired, a little fatigued there. See if we can focus on that one. No? Alright, I'm just gonna pull them back then. Harass them a little. Are they going after Chenggong over here? They are. Okay. Alright, Lu Bu is actually quite good against infantry with his smash, so we're going to alternate here. Have them focus him down, charge from behind. Right, the range are crippled. We took care of them. Stay on the cavalry. We didn't even need those armies. Alright, come catch them. I'm gonna grab him, catch this group. Now they're marching back over to them. Sure, go ahead. What damage are you gonna do now? Alright, they chased everyone, killed everyone there. Archers fire. Flank out, flank out. Cavalry come back. Target the general. He has the cooldown increase. Alright, I'll chase him. Alright, it's over. We can chase him for the kill. You give us an extra momentum point. There we go. It's quick. We have a very strong weapon. Alright, as you can see, that's not very hard to do to defeat the early game pressure from Cao Cao's faction. And you can once again decide what you want to do with them. I'm just going to release them here. We don't have to maintain momentum here because we're talking about Zhang Liao's army only, right? We're not talking about Lu Bu's army. So we can pick up income here. He barely moved. We picked up Dian Wei. And here, I think if you moved it correctly, you should be able to reach that army. You also crush Cao Cao on turn 1. So this looks a bit worse because you don't get the garrison, but to be honest, we just need him. It looks like you're not full health, and that is slightly concerning, especially since Cao Cao has a really good weapon. But what you want to do is duel Yue Jin first, pick off the win with the help of your analyzed weakness, and get a heal from that, and then fight Cao Cao. So that's the goal here. Let's hop in here and fight. Alrighty, same idea, right? We want to extend the battle, make them come towards us, build some of this, use some of that. Might not be useful, but who knows? Let's get started. At least this time our reinforcements are coming from just one direction. Our cavalry is really good at weakening Cao Cao if we need to. Remember, if he start running and is routing, you can actually just have people chase and get the kill that way. Let's put our units here. That can shield us a little bit. If they want to flank this way, there's that. Alright, we're obviously looking for duels. See, they're not willing here, so you gotta wait a little bit. You can poke around. They might change their tune. He's just scared of you right now. They also have a tower. They just kill some of their own cavalry on the wooden stakes. Trying to reposition against us. Alright, if they're not going to bother you, you're just going to slap their units like that. And then eventually, they should try to fight you. The cavalry is concerning. Those things are strong. Go away from them. Alright, they're moving into the position that we want. We will pick up the duel, as we mentioned. He got boosted by Cao Cao's evasion boost, which is why he thinks he can beat us. That's a grave mistake. Have your cavalry ready. They might be very important in taking out Cao Cao. Change the angle a little bit. You really shouldn't need very much help, but since we do have help, we can be pretty smart at providing it. The faster you kill, the more heal you get, so why not? Yeah, the cavalry is obviously coming towards me. You want to kite away from the initial charge. Like, see, you just got to wiggle a little bit and dodge it. And then we have a roar, so use that whenever you can. Have to be in combat. Cao Cao's a low. Time to go get him. There we go. Alright, we're applying the weakness now. Dealing some damage. Have them chase down Cao Cao here. We're fatigued, so everyone's moving super slowly. You should win this. Yeah. Close call, but you should win this. The help was appreciated. So we're obviously, we don't have the health to really take out Cao Cao right now, but you can see that because of the rock that we have, we're fine. Just shore up this flank as well. Keep them hiding here. And then just have your cavalry chase him down. He doesn't have a smash ability, so you can't do too much about it. The boost smash ability is back up, so we can go smash the infantry. And then we can obviously debuff Cao Cao by staying around him, let our cavalry do the damage. Yeah, with this setup, we're very safe. You can even do something like this. You can do this. We're debuffing Cao Cao, keep him busy. When he's routing, I don't know if he's unbreakable. He's not. So when he's routing, have people chase him to finish the kill. But first we can do the smash here. We get a better position. He's got him already. We can roar on him as well. We're just reducing his evasion armor. It's getting boosted for a little bit. It's hard to deal with him, but come on. Let's finish this with a smash. Or not. Yeah, if that's the case. Oh, we smashed anyways. Clean that up. Roar on them. 28. He's dipping. It's costing us a lot, but these units we're actually getting rid of after the turn because we don't want to pay the upkeep, so it's fine. They're doing their job by taking out Cao Cao right here. Alright, chop, 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 chop. Go help.
准备就绪，准备好了，射击敌军，杀光敌军。
Alright, now get ready to chase. He's very weak already. He came to slap
加快速度，
Chengong real quick. Alright, everyone away. Lu Bu's turn. Don't end. Chase and get the kill. There we go.
敌将已被我军
That's like a duel. It's considered the same. And we'll just claim victory here. Alrighty, so mission accomplished. Both of Cao Cao's main armies have been wiped out. We checked off multiple members from our list. We got Cao Cao's horse. Yu Jin got captured. We'll just release him here.
释放俘虏，
And we will just ransom because we're refreshing only the main army. So Lu Bu's army won't get this once again. So we'll just take the
人
ransom.
各为其主，他们不过是奉命行事罢了。
Yue Jin has been picked up, and the prestige has been increased. So Cao Cao also been picked up, which is why our prestige got increased. That's a really good way to pick up Cao Cao on turn 1. 10 points of diplomatic relations with all factions as well. And the prestige means we can pick a few bonuses here. Armies is actually not that useful for Lu Bu because you don't need that many armies. Lu Bu's army is really the only useful one. Administrators are useful because if you want to keep any amount of land to combat your extremely high construction costs and your corruption bonus, you really only want to build stuff in places where you have administrators. So administrators are key for you. Trade agreements are key for you because you're hoping to build a vast vassal network. So these are things you should focus on. You can get a trade agreement with Zanba on turn 1, so getting another one works pretty well here. And you have one commandery, so there's a -1 on your faction, so you need probably at least 2 to get just one administrator. And then it's really up to you to see where you want to diversify. I prefer to get a spy, so I can start checking for turncoats. So this is really the setup that I prefer. So right away, you can start checking for turncoats. So as I mentioned, Guo Si is on your list. He's very often easy to grab from either this or he just leaves the faction due to dissatisfaction. These are all great methods. The benefit of having him as your turncoat and grabbing him is you can have a controlled vassal situation where you can just summon him onto the field, grant him independence, and then just kill him, which is a good way to guarantee it. That's some options you have. It does cost quite a bit of money, but as you can see, we made so much money from those fights that we actually have a bunch of money in our treasury right now. There is additional trade agreement for Zanba that we weren't able to do.
欢迎
You can try to balance this out probably with an item, in my opinion, or just money. The trade is worth 312 a turn, so you know any amount of deal doesn't hurt you. He's not in any war, is he? Ah, he is. So this is something else you can do. Zhengjiang starts out really close to you, and she has a very small faction in the temple. The temple grants 10 points of satisfaction. So she's a very good early target to grab, not only for the easy checklist on your abilities, and if you can capture her or, you know, release her because she's the faction leader, get fondness there, she could show up to you later, you can get the tribute bonus. Those are things you can consider. Lastly, if you don't want to lose this land, I would just summon Gauchon here, and he can handle Xia Houyuan by himself with the retinue here. The spear counters the cavalry, and Gauchon can beat him up. You can let him borrow Lu Bu's weapon for that battle, and that would solve things. What you want to do here is actually just get rid of everyone, but do the trade deal first, because if you cancel out everyone first, you lose military strength, and then you end up not getting as high as a trade value. So like you would probably want to summon Gauchon first here. That will give you more military strength. You don't need these units actually. They are not going to be the deciding factor in this fight. So I would just get rid of them after the deal. That's probably as strong as we can be, unless we do a administrator as well. Because I believe the administrator will kick in as a member of the garrison if we pick someone who was not summoned yet. It's probably going to be Zhang Liao just because the high expertise is what we need. So he's not going to be considered as part of the garrison, he's on the field. But that's fine. So we summon him. This is probably the height of our value here. Trade agreement, 0.5. We got 0.2 from those 2 moves. So it helped a little. You pay a little less. Let's do cash. Is it going to be 300 or more? Ah, way less than 300. So it's just giving him half a turn worth of money to get this through. Let's see how low we can get it. That sounds fine. Literally half a turn of the trade value. And if you want to sign anything else, you can take a look at the value. Everything is kind of low. Coron's a little bit high. He's not on the list, so it's something you could consider. But I don't think he's that generous. We'll take it. And you can see your momentum already shifted up to 6. And that solved pretty much all your satisfaction issues just from fighting all those fights on turn 1 by making him go on march. We have a couple more units. It refreshed the deal. We get extra replenishment. That's not really going to help us. They want us to destroy Cao Cao's faction as our challenge. That is something we love to do because of the schemes. We don't have any more early game missions. It's just reach marquees. So we're done with our missions. We're going to disband our armies. We've done our deals. We put in our administrators. We're going to summon Lu Bu back to full heal him. Next turn when we summon him out. Same thing here. Same thing here. Because we crippled the siege weapon and also we killed Xun Yu, which apparently does not have resiliency. But no more siege weapons means this city is safe. Over here, we have this setup. As I mentioned, borrow the weapon. You have to remove it like this to make sure it doesn't go on cooldown. He can borrow the horse if he wants, or use Cao Cao's horse, and it's up to you what you want to do. But make him strong so you can fight Xiahou Yuan and defend your land. Your economy is pretty healthy after turn 1. Your land's very safe. Think about entering into a mercenary contract with him to fight Zhengjiang, pick her off, or my preferred method is beeline for Cao Cao's territory and then go directly south. You want to head for Runan as quickly as you can because He Yi is there. You want to get to him before Liu Bao's faction has a chance to wipe him out. There is a degree of luck here. There's a chance that Liu Bao wins and you just don't get to pick him up, which means you don't get recovery. There's also a chance where he can beat Liu Bao's army and then you can find him on the field with all 3 brothers, wipe out all 3 in one go, and that's a super lucky run. But he will be the first target I would actually go for, and I wouldn't worry about this Zhengjiang business right now because she's not at war with you. Just summon Lu Bu. You can even proxy summon him with another general. That way he can move from here pretty much and just have him solo Chen on this turn. You cannot gain reset momentum after picking up a territory, so that's something to watch out for. Often you might want to reset, have him as reinforcement, pop out a general from the army to siege, if you understand what I mean. So like if I have 3 generals with the army and I'm about to come to a town and I have full movement and I want to bounce off of another army, what I would do is just split one of the generals from the 3 to not Lu Bu to come out to take the town, and then Lu Bu's army after you take it can still attack another one and keep bouncing your momentum, because you could go from like here to here to here in the same turn and then attack another piece of land to end your turn, because the reset is very, very powerful. So you can use that to your advantage to move through the land quite quickly. And the rest of the campaign is actually just super easy because Lu Bu is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as you pick up these abilities, and you're just going to sweep through the land. In terms of management, the thing to note is you do have this corruption disadvantage and construction cost disadvantage. So you want to actually make a bunch of vassals. That is kind of the preferred playstyle, and then try to set up trade with those vassals. So for example, when you take Intruan, put an administrator there. You only have 1 right now because even though we got 2, only 1. Just swap them around. You have positions here. So when you hit spring, you want to get people into these positions, shift them around. You can shift Chen Gong here, you can shift Zhang Liao here, pick up your faction council, and then set up a new administrator for Intruan, grant them independence, and then have a trade route with them so they can manage this land for you and provide you a passive income both in terms of trade and in terms of tribute. And that's kind of how you want to, continue to grow. And that's pretty much it. In the beginning, tax collection is your go-to building. Free, right? Free for the building, free for the income. If it spawns rebels, farm them. You have plenty of generals sitting around doing nothing. Simon-wise, you probably just want to level up your wife. This way, she can provide more skills for faction-wide boost, and the extra peasantry goes pretty well in Tran as well. So in that first turn, you checked off multiple generals. Xia Houyuan's army, make sure if you get this fight, don't kill him. That way he's still on the field, so you can have Lü Bu show up, pick off this army, reset movement, pick off this army, reset movement, and still kind of get to Tran where you want to. You checked off all these generals already, so fighting them a second time is up to you. Executing, as I mentioned, is also up to you. But the rest of the campaign should be very enjoyable. This is a very well-designed campaign. A World Betrayed featuring Lü Bu and Sun Ce both have wonderful campaigns to play. Highly recommended. If you haven't got the DLC and you check this out and you can find it on sale, definitely give it a try. I think these two campaigns in particular are probably the best campaign experiences in Total War 3 Kingdom in terms of having a narrative playthrough that's more guided and has clear objectives for you to hit. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this guide, and I'll see you guys next week when we cover Sun Ce's faction. So until then, bye!